No.
There you go.
Which is why New York Creates makes so much sense. So let us get started. Bob?
Are we okay over here?
Are we okay?
Yes.
All righty.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fort Schuyler Management Corporation Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome Kevin Eunice, the Chief Operating Officer of Empire State Development, Emily Conchala from the Research Foundation, and also Mike Frame was here earlier. He's representing the SUNY Poly Foundation. I'd like to welcome Doug Gross, who was just introduced at the Fuller Road Board meeting. Doug just has a wonderful career that spans a good time in this industry, has such great experience, and we're glad that he's here with us. I'd like to start by asking the directors if they have any potential conflicts of interest with respect to the items on today's agenda. If so, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record now and recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to this item. No potential conflicts have been disclosed. I'd like to start by approving the minutes of our April 25th meeting. Those minutes are in front of you. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes and a second, and then ask if there's any corrections.
So moved.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Franklin. Any comments, corrections? Okay, all those in favor of accepting those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on to the Audit Committee report and ask for a motion to consider approval of the annual tax filings. Those tax filings are in front of you in this document here. FSMC engaged KPMG to review its annual tax filings for the 2016 year pursuant to authorization by the board at its April 25th, 2018 meeting. The filings include IRS Form 990, IRS Form 990T, NYCHAR 500, and NYCT 13. KPMG has now concluded its review of the tax filings. The FSMC Audit Committee approved a resolution approving the tax filings, authorizing the President and/or Treasurer to sign the tax filings, and recommending that the Board approve the same actions. What I'd like to do is introduce a resolution approving the tax filings, authorizing the President and Treasurer to sign and file the tax returns, and take any and all actions necessary and appropriate to effectuate the foregoing actions. So I'd like to start by asking for a motion to consider the annual tax filings.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting that motion? Say aye. Okay, I'd like to now ask for a vote on the motion to approve with ayes and nays and abstentions the tax filing to be signed by the President and/or Treasurer to file the tax filings and take any and all actions necessary and appropriate to effectuate the foregoing actions.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, that motion passes. I'd like to now move on to the Finance Committee report from Kristen Proud.
Thank you, Bob. Fort Schuyler Management Corporation purchased an MOCVD reactor tool and a controller related to the tool. It's a piece of supporting equipment for the MOCVD reactor tool. And these were intended for use in the facility being constructed in DeWitt in Onondaga County. Thereafter, due to a change in circumstances at this project, there was no need for the tool or the controller. Raxium Inc., which is a Delaware corporation, expressed interest in purchasing the tool, recognizing that there were limited resale opportunities for this tool because of its specific application. Fort Schuyler Management Corporation began discussions with Raxium. Following the discussions, Raxium offered $2.378 million, which is 95% of the purchase price, which was about $2.5 million for the tool and the controller. Raxium's offer was contingent, however, upon completion of the sale by April 12th, 2018. They had some time constraints related to their operation in California, which is where it was going to be put into use, hence the April 12th date that they put in their offer. Due to the time constraints, the very favorable offer given the limited market for reselling this tool, Fort Schuyler Management Corporation sought to enter into a purchase agreement with Raxium so that the transaction could be completed by the corporation's deadline of April 12th. On April 10th, the Finance Committee of Fort Schuyler discussed and approved a resolution approving the sale of the tool and the controller to Raxium and recommending that the full Fort Schuyler Board ratify the agreement for the sale of these items to Raxium. So we are here today, the Finance Committee members, seeking a resolution by the board to ratify this agreement for the sale of the tool and its controller to Raxium, Inc.
Okay, any comments or questions on that? I'd like to ask for a, do we introduce a resolution ratifying the agreement for the sale of the tool and the controller to Raxium? Would somebody like to introduce that with a...
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Give you a second.
Thank you, Ken. Any discussion with regard to the motion? Any comments, questions?
I did have a
thoughts?
question for either
Okay.
Bob or Kristen. So April 12th was their deadline. Was the transaction completed? And
Yes.
the tool was shipped?
I don't want to talk about the tool being shipped, but the transaction
completed.
And by the way, just now that you raised it, I think it's a great question. I mean, this was very specialized equipment. The fact that we were able to get 95 cents on the dollar for this equipment amazed us all, quite frankly.
Stunned
And,
that you can find that.
The other, the potential other uses were very limited. And again, I think it's fair to say, I mean, I defer to Kevin, but I think it's fair to say we're also keeping that money to be used on this project. So it's a consistent project, so it's not like we're making money on the deal, we're reinvesting in the existing project.
Well, based on my experience, you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than finding another, another customer interested in precisely the same tooling. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful news.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, that motion passes. So thank you, Kristen. I'd like to move on to new business. Is there any new business to be considered? This should be done by a motion, if there is some. If you introduce a motion for new business. Anything? Okay. I'd like to provide the opportunity for public comment. Please introduce yourself and keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Any public comment? Okay. Our next scheduled meeting will be announced. We do not have that date done yet. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn, but before I do that, I'd like to thank all the board members for your service on our board. Remind everybody that this is a volunteer position, and I thank you for your service to our state and to help the state's economy and the work that you do. So thank you for your service. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you, everybody, and thank you again for your
Thanks.
service.
Thanks, Robert.
Oh, hey, thank you so